I'm Diane. I'm a Master Watershed Steward in York County, Pennsylvania, and very interested in preserving and helping our county deal with stormwater and habitat loss. One of the reasons we cared is we first moved in to York County about 11 years ago, but we looked at our yard, and one of the first things I noticed before we closed on the house was sediment running down the side of our house and onto the sidewalk. And I said, that's not good. We should not have that. So we started looking at our yard, and I said, what can I do to make this better? Because the yard looked like a typical suburban yard without trees and without extra plants. And I decided that needed to change. So before I even began work outside the home, we moved in and I started digging gardens to help correct that. We also had water dampness in our basement. And the best way I could think of to get rid of that dampness was to change the plantings around the yard and make sure the water wasn't getting near our foundation. My husband and I have worked on this for 10 years. This is not an instantaneous fix, but it is a work in progress. And the more you learn, the more reasons you may think that it's a good idea. Part of what you notice about our property is that we are kind of at the bottom of the bowl. We have a lot of other properties surrounding us that will deliver their rainwater into our yard, which is fine because gravity wins. The water will flow downhill. But we can manage the water flowing downhill. So we have put swales on either side of our house. Nothing that you can't run a lawnmower over and maintain as yard, but it tends to direct the water down into rain gardens that we have at the bottom of our property before you get to the sidewalk, so that the water will come into a garden, will capture part of it. The plants will clean up any sediment so that it is not running into our storm drains and making them less effective. One of the other water conservation best management practices that we put into the yard is a rain barrel. It's very simple. We selected a roof based on size, based on how fast it was going to fill up the rain barrel, and installed a rain barrel. We use it for watering plants. It's excellent as a reservoir for a can of water to settle a new plant that I've just put into the garden. And it's useful if you want to rinse some things off that you don't want to get out the hose and do. We also use some of that water in our bird baths. But where the water runs is into a rain garden that we put at the bottom of the swale area to capture part of the water and filter it before it reaches the stormwater system. There's a storm drain right in front of the rain garden. So we work very hard at trying to make sure that the only things going into the stormwater system is filtered water. We have a lot of certifications for our yard. The first certification we got was through the Penn State Master Gardeners, which we have for putting a lot of native plants in our yard. Native plants that will support pollinators, because our pollinators are super important if we want to have food, and we have a lot of farms around us. One of the other certifications we got was from Audubon Society. Audubon at Home. We decided that since we were supporting a good insect population, and with our plantings had drastically changed the types of birds and numbers of different species in our backyard, we would go for a certification through Audubon. The next certification we got, I had planted quite a bit of butterfly milkweed. It's an absolutely gorgeous garden plant, and is necessary for monarch butterflies to complete their life cycle. We had a lot of monarch butterflies one year, and I looked into monarch way station certification for our yard, and we qualified for that. The latest of the certifications that we have gone for is the Watershed Friendly Proper certification through Penn State Master Watershed Stewards, which takes into account the swales we have put in, the gardens we have put in, the trees we have planted. Among the things that I have found very rewarding doing this is finding a community of like-minded people who have native plants, who are very passionate about creating habitat in their yard and using the plants as the workhorses for water quality. Our yard is only a small portion of a much larger area that is our watershed. Our yard has helped us personally just because we enjoy the beauty of it, we enjoy the shade that it provides, and it slows down stormwater. But we are one yard, so we put in all the trees and things that we did in order to capture the water not only from our yard but from our neighbors' yards. And part of all my certifications are to convince people that they too can take their yards and turn them into something that will help clean the water as it goes into our stormwater systems, as it goes into our creeks, as it ultimately goes into the Susquehanna River and ends up in the bay. So there are lots of ways that you can make changes. There are people like the Extension Service, like the Conservation District, like native plant societies, and we have an increasing number of native plant nurseries around, and we have landscapers who are beginning to think in terms of conservation landscaping. So there are many ways to approach this. All actions are local. Our effects can be global if we have enough people taking the time to do the actions. Every homeowner can plant a tree. Take a native tree, plant native shrubs underneath, put native flowers around and in between the native shrubs. They will fill in, and you will have made a difference.